The man who had everything except time, James Beckham, moved through Denver International Airport like a man being chased by his own shadow. At 36 years old, he had built quantum solutions from a college dorm room idea into a $20 billion empire. His face had graced the covers of Forbes, Time, and Wired. He owned properties in 5 countries, drove cars most people only saw in movies, and his opinion could shift stock markets. But right now, all he wanted was to disappear into seat 14A and sleep through the flight to Los Angeles. The past month had been brutal. His closest business partner had attempted a hostile takeover. His mother was recovering from surgery in Boston. He had not slept more than 4 hours in any single night for 3 weeks straight. The board meeting in LA could not be rescheduled, so here he was, choosing a commercial flight instead of his private jet because he needed the anonymity, the chance to be invisible among strangers. He handed his ticket to the flight attendant, who smiled warmly and pointed him toward the Economy Plus section. James had specifically requested this. No first-class attention, no special treatment, just a quiet seat where he could close his eyes and forget the weight of his empire for 6 hours. The face that stopped time as he walked down the narrow aisle, dodging passengers stuffing oversized bags into overhead compartments. James glanced at his boarding pass one more time. Seat 1 for a window seat. Perfect. He looked up to locate his row, and his entire world tilted sideways. Sitting in seat 14B, her dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, was Rachel Torres. James froze completely. His carry-on bag slipped from his shoulder and hit the floor with a thud. Passengers behind him muttered complaints, but he could not hear them. His heartbeat drowned out everything else. Rachel looked up from her book, perhaps annoyed by the commotion, and her hazel eyes met his. For 3 full seconds, neither of them breathed. Her book slipped from her fingers. Her lips parted in shock. The color drained from her face, then rushed back in a deep blush that James remembered all too well. James. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it hit him like a shout. Rachel. He could not manage anything more. A businessman behind him cleared his throat loudly. "Excuse me, buddy? Some of us have places to be." James mechanically bent down, grabbed his bag, and stumbled forward. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. He reached row 14 and stood there, staring at the empty seat beside her. The same woman he had loved with every cell in his body. The same woman whose heart he had broken 8 years ago. The same woman he had spent nearly a decade trying to forget. And now the universe had placed her exactly 18 inches away from him. For the next 6 hours, memories like lightning strikes, James lowered himself into seat 1 for a. His mind raced backward through time. They had met during their sophomore year at Stanford University. James was a computer science major with big dreams and empty pockets. Rachel was studying environmental engineering, passionate about saving the world one sustainable solution at a time. They met at a campus protest against a proposed development project that would destroy a local wetland. James had gone to the protest mainly because his roommate dragged him along. But when he saw Rachel standing on a bench, microphone in hand, speaking with such fire and conviction about protecting the planet, something inside him shifted. She was not just beautiful, though she absolutely was. She radiated purpose, intelligence, and a kind of fierce compassion that made everyone around her want to be better. After the protest, he had worked up the courage to approach her. They talked for 4 hours straight at a nearby coffee shop, closing down the place. By the end of that night, James knew he had met someone extraordinary. Their relationship had been intense from the start. Late-night study sessions that turned into deep philosophical debates. Weekend hikes where they would talk about building a future together. She believed in his ideas when quantum solutions was just scribbles in a notebook. She helped him practice his first investor pitch 50 times until it was perfect. They were inseparable for 3 years. Everyone called them the perfect couple. James had bought a ring during their senior year, planning to propose after graduation, but then everything changed when success became the enemy. Quantum solutions exploded faster than James had ever imagined. By age 25, he was a millionaire. By 28, he was managing hundreds of employees. The company demanded everything from him. Every hour, every ounce of energy, every bit of mental space. Rachel supported him at first. She celebrated every milestone, attended every important event, and smiled through countless canceled date nights. But slowly, James stopped seeing her. Not physically, she was still there. But he stopped truly seeing her, stopped listening, stopped being present. She had her own career, too. After graduation, Rachel joined an environmental nonprofit working on clean water projects in developing countries. She traveled frequently, came home exhausted but fulfilled, and wanted to share her experiences with James. But James was always in a meeting, always on a call, always reviewing contracts or planning the next acquisition. Their conversations became transactional. Their intimacy faded. The man who once hiked mountains with her now barely looked up from his laptop when she entered the room. The breaking point came on her 27th birthday. James had promised, absolutely promised, that he would take the evening off. She had planned a simple dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant, the place where they had celebrated getting into Stanford together. James missed it. A crisis with a major client came up, and he chose the meeting over her. He did not even call to explain until 3 hours after their reservation time, when he finally came home at midnight, carrying expensive flowers and apologies. Rachel was sitting on their couch with 2 packed suitcases. "I cannot do this anymore," she had said, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, James. I will always love you. But I cannot keep disappearing while you chase something that will never be enough." James had been too proud, too angry, too defensive. Instead of fighting for her, instead of admitting she was right, he said words that still haunted him. "If you cannot handle my ambition, maybe you were never the right person for this life." She left before sunrise. No dramatic scene, no shouting match. Just a quiet goodbye, a returned apartment key, and a hole in James's chest that never quite healed. The unbearable present now. Sitting beside her in row 14, James's hands trembled slightly as he fastened his seatbelt. The armrest between them felt like a border between 2 countries at war. Rachel had returned to her book. Though James noticed she had not turned a single page in 5 minutes, he wanted to say something. Anything. "Sorry, I was wrong. I have thought about you every single day." But his throat felt sealed shut. The flight attendant came by with her safety demonstration. James went through the motions of pretending to pay attention. His entire awareness was focused on the woman beside him, on the faint scent of her perfume. Something with vanilla and jasmine that brought back 1,000 memories. As the plane began to taxi toward the runway, Rachel finally spoke without looking at him. "Los Angeles?" Her voice was different, stronger somehow, but still with that slight rasp that used to drive him crazy. "Yes," James managed. "Business meeting, you. Job interview." To words, but they carried weight. Rachel had always been brilliant, driven. Of course, she was pursuing something important. "That's great," James said, and meant it. "Anyone would be lucky to have you." She turned to look at him then, really look at him, and James saw something flicker in her eyes. Pain, yes. But also curiosity. Maybe even a trace of the warmth they used to share. "You look tired," she said softly. "I am," he admitted. "It has been a rough month." The plane lifted off the ground, and James felt his stomach drop for reasons that had nothing to do with altitude. As Denver disappeared below them, he realized that this flight was going to change something fundamental. He could feel it in the charged air between them, in the way his heart raced despite his exhaustion, in the impossible coincidence that had placed them side by side after 8 years of silence. The universe was giving him another chance. The question was whether he was brave enough to take it. Rachel turned back to her book. But James caught the smallest smile playing at the corner of her lips. Maybe, just maybe, she was wondering the same thing.
Breaking the silence. 20 minutes into the flight, the tension between James and Rachel had become almost unbearable. They sat in careful silence, both pretending to be absorbed in their own activities. James stared at his laptop screen without actually reading a single email. Rachel turned pages in her book without comprehending the words. The flight attendant came by with the beverage cart, breaking the spell momentarily. "What can I get for you?" she asked cheerfully. "Coffee, black," James said. "Tea with honey, please," Rachel added. The flight attendant poured their drinks and moved on. James noticed Rachel still took her tea the same way. Some things never changed. He watched her tear open the honey packet, stir it slowly into her cup, and he remembered Sunday mornings in their tiny apartment. Rachel at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around her favorite mug, hair messy from sleep, looking more beautiful than any woman had a right to be. "You still take it with honey," James said before he could stop himself. Rachel glanced at him, surprised. "You remember that?" "I remember everything." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Rachel set down her tea and turned slightly in her seat to face him better. "James, this is strange. We cannot just sit here pretending we are strangers." "I know," he admitted. "I just do not know where to start." "How about the truth?" Rachel's voice was gentle but firm. "Why are you really flying commercial? The James Beckham I read about in magazines has a private jet." James let out a long breath. "I needed to be anonymous for a while. To not be the CEO, not be the face of quantum solutions. Just be a regular person on a regular flight. Running from something? Maybe. Or running towards something. I am not sure anymore." He closed his laptop, giving her his full attention. "What about you? Job interview in LA. Are you leaving Denver?" Rachel wrapped both hands around her teacup, a gesture he recognized as her thinking pose. "Potentially. There is an opportunity with Pacific Environmental Alliance. They want me to head their West Coast operations. It would be a big move, but the work is important. Clean ocean initiatives, plastic reduction programs, coral reef restoration." James felt genuine admiration surge through him. "That sounds exactly like something you would excel at. You always wanted to make a real difference." "Some of us still believe work should mean something beyond profit margins," Rachel said, and there was a slight edge to her voice. The barb hit its mark. James flinched. "That is fair. I probably deserve that." Rachel's expression softened. "I am sorry. That was petty." "No, it was honest. And you are right. I got so caught up in building the company that I forgot why I started it in the first place." James paused, gathering courage. "I forgot a lot of important things. The weight of unspoken words." Rachel studied his face carefully, as if trying to determine whether he was being genuine or just saying what she wanted to hear. "You look different," she said finally. "Older, obviously, but something else. Tired in a way that sleep would not fix." "Success is not quite what I thought it would be," James admitted. "I have everything I thought I wanted, but most days I feel emptier than when I was a broke college student eating ramen and dreaming big." "Be careful, James. That almost sounds like self-awareness." Despite everything, James laughed. It felt strange, rusty, like he had forgotten how. "When did you become so sharp with your words?" "When I learned that soft words get ignored." Rachel took a sip of her tea. "After I left, I spent about a year being angry. Then another year being sad. Then I decided I was done letting that relationship define me. I built a life I am proud of, James. I traveled to 12 countries, led projects that brought clean water to 50,000 people, published research papers, and learned that I am enough all by myself." James felt a complex mixture of pride and regret wash over him. "I am glad. Truly. You deserve all of that and more." "Do you really mean that, or are you just being polite?" "I mean it. One of my biggest regrets is that I was not there to see you become this version of yourself. The Rachel I knew was amazing, but I can tell you have grown into someone even stronger." Rachel's eyes glistened slightly, and she looked away toward the window. Outside, clouds stretched endlessly like a white ocean. "You broke my heart, James," she said quietly. "I know that sounds dramatic, but it is true. I gave you everything I had, supported your dreams, believed in you when investors laughed at your pitch. And you made me feel invisible." Confronting the past. James felt his chest tighten painfully. Hearing her say it out loud, without anger but with simple honesty, was worse than any accusation could have been. "I know," he whispered. "And I am sorry. I have wanted to say that for 8 years, but I was too proud, too stubborn, too convinced that I had been right to prioritize my work." "Were you right?" "No. God, no. I was an idiot. A blind, ambitious idiot who thought success would fill every void. I built an empire, Rachel, but I lost the one person who actually mattered." Rachel turned back to face him, and her expression was unreadable. "You cannot just say sorry and expect that to fix 8 years of silence. I know that too. I am not expecting anything. But since we are apparently trapped on this plane together, can I at least be honest with you?" "Please do." James set his coffee down and shifted in his seat to face her more fully. Several passengers glanced their way, sensing the intensity of their conversation, but he did not care. "After you left, I threw myself even harder into work. I told myself you were wrong, that you did not understand what it took to build something meaningful. I dated other people, none seriously. I won awards, made more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, and felt completely hollow inside." "James. Please, let me finish. About 2 years ago, my mom had a health scare. Nothing life-threatening, but it made me realize how much time I had wasted. I started therapy, which probably sounds ridiculous coming from me." Rachel's eyebrows rose. "You? In therapy? Shocking, right? My therapist helped me understand that I was terrified of vulnerability. Building a company, making money, achieving success, those were things I could control. But loving someone, truly loving them, meant risking loss. So when you needed me to choose you over work, I chose work because it felt safer." "That is a very expensive insight," Rachel said, but her voice was gentler now. "Worth every penny. Though I wish I had figured it out 8 years earlier." The storm within and without. Suddenly, the plane shuddered violently. The seatbelt sign dinged on, and the pilot's voice came over the intercom. "Folks, we are hitting some unexpected turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." The plane dropped suddenly, that stomach-lurching sensation that makes even frequent flyers grip their armrests. Rachel gasped and instinctively reached out, her hand finding James's arm. He immediately covered her hand with his, the contact sending electricity through his entire body. "I have got you," he said automatically, the words coming from some deep protective instinct. The plane bucked and swayed for several long minutes. Overhead compartments rattled. A few passengers made nervous sounds. But James barely noticed any of it. All his awareness was focused on Rachel's hand under his, on her rapid breathing, on the fact that even after everything, her first instinct in fear was to reach for him. When the turbulence finally subsided and the ride smoothed out, Rachel slowly pulled her hand away. But she did not move back to her original position. Instead, she stayed turned toward him, their knees almost touching. "Thank you," she said softly. "Always," James replied, and meant it with every fiber of his being. Rachel studied him for a long moment, and something shifted in her expression. The walls she had carefully maintained since he sat down began to crack. "I never stopped loving you," she said suddenly, the words tumbling out as if she had been holding them back for years. "I was angry and hurt and determined to move on, but I never actually stopped. Do you know how frustrating that is? To love someone who hurt you so badly?" James felt his throat constrict with emotion. "Yes. I know exactly how that feels. I have dated other people. Good men, kind men, men who actually showed up when they said they would. And none of them were you. None of them made me feel the way you did. It made me so angry. Rachel. I dreamed about you showing up one day, having some grand gesture, some perfect apology that would make everything okay. But you never came. 8 years, James. Not a single phone call, not one email. Nothing. Walls coming down. James felt tears burning behind his eyes, something he had not experienced in years. I wanted to reach out 1,000 times. I would write emails and delete them. I would dial your number and hang up before it rang. I even flew to Denver once, made it all the way to your office building, and then chickened out in the parking lot. Rachel's eyes widened. You came to Denver? 3 years ago. I told myself I just wanted to see you, to know you were okay. But really, I wanted to beg you to give me another chance. I sat in my rental car for 2 hours, watching people go in and out of your building, hoping to catch a glimpse of you. Then I saw you leave with a guy. You were laughing at something he said. You looked happy. So I left. David, Rachel said quietly. That was David. He was my boyfriend for about 8 months. Nice guy, but wrong guy. You looked happy. I was trying to be happy. There is a difference. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 8 years of separation and longing pressing down on them. Why did you not call after you saw me? Rachel asked. Because I thought you had moved on. I thought you deserved better than the man who had failed you so completely. What right did I have to come back into your life and disrupt your happiness? Rachel laughed, but it was tinged with sadness. James, you disrupted my happiness the day you let me walk away. Everything after that was just me trying to rebuild around the hole you left. I am sorry, James said, and this time his voice cracked. I am so incredibly sorry, Rachel. For all of it. For choosing work over you. For not fighting for us. For being too proud to admit I was wrong. For 8 years of silence. For every moment I was not there when you needed me. A tear rolled down Rachel's cheek, and she brushed it away quickly. I am sorry too. For leaving without giving you a real chance to fix things. For being too hurt and proud to reach out. For convincing myself that you did not care when maybe you did. I cared. I never stopped caring. The flight attendant walked by, paused, and seemed to sense the emotional intensity of their conversation. She moved on without asking if they needed anything. Rediscovering connection. For the next hour, James and Rachel talked like they used to, back when they were young and in love and believed they could conquer anything together. They caught up on the years they had missed. Rachel told him about her projects in Ghana and Peru, about the communities she had helped, about the moments when she felt truly alive doing work that mattered. James told her about the company, but not the glory version. He told her about the loneliness, the pressure, the nights when he questioned whether any of it was worth it. He told her about reconnecting with his mother, about learning to delegate, about slowly trying to become the kind of person who could maintain relationships instead of just business contacts. Do you remember that night we drove up to Mount Evans? Rachel asked suddenly, a smile playing on her lips. Senior year, middle of winter, absolute insanity. James grinned at the memory. We almost died on that mountain. But we saw the sunrise above the clouds. You said it was like standing at the edge of the world. I proposed to you that morning. In my head, at least. I had it all planned out for graduation. Rachel's smile faded into something more complex. You were going to propose? I bought the ring 2 weeks before everything fell apart. It is still in a drawer in my apartment. I could never bring myself to return it. James, that is the saddest thing I have ever heard. Or the most pathetic. Maybe both. They laughed together, a genuine shared laugh that felt like coming home. James realized how much he had missed this, the easy connection they once had, the way they could shift from deep conversation to laughter and back again seamlessly. "What happens when this plane lands?" Rachel asked, the question hovering between them like a challenge. "I do not know," James admitted. "What do you want to happen?" "I honestly do not know either. Part of me wants to pretend this flight never happened, go to my interview, move on with my life. The smart part of me, the part that learned not to trust pretty words and old feelings. And the other part?" Rachel met his eyes directly, and James saw vulnerability there that matched his own. "The other part wants to give you my hotel information and see if you show up. The other part wants to believe that maybe 8 years was enough time for both of us to grow into people who could actually make this work. The other part is terrified that I am being an idiot." "You were never an idiot. Not once in your entire life." "I might be now." The plane began its descent into Los Angeles, and James felt panic rising in his chest. They were running out of time, and he still had no idea how to fix 8 years of mistakes in 6 hours. "Rachel, I cannot promise I have changed completely. I am still ambitious, still driven, still probably going to work too many hours. But I can promise that I understand what I lost. I can promise that if you give me another chance, you will never feel invisible again. I can promise that I will fight for us this time instead of hiding behind my work." Rachel was quiet for a long moment, watching Los Angeles come into view below them. The city sprawled endlessly, millions of lives intersecting and diverging in countless ways. "Let me get through my interview tomorrow," she said finally. "Let me have one night to think clearly without you sitting 18 inches away making me feel like I am 22 again. Then we will see." "I can do that." "Can you, though? Can you give me space without disappearing for another 8 years?" James pulled out his phone and handed it to her. "Put your number in. I will text you tomorrow evening. If you respond, we talk. If you do not, I will respect that too. Your choice, Rachel. It has always been your choice." She took his phone, hesitated for just a moment, then typed in her number. She handed it back without calling herself to verify. "That was a trust exercise," she said. "I know." The plane touched down smoothly, and James felt the engine's reverse thrust, slowing them down. Around them, passengers began gathering their belongings, preparing to return to their regular lives. But James and Rachel sat still, neither quite ready for the spell to break completely. "For what it is worth," Rachel said as they finally stood and retrieved their bags, "I am glad the universe sat us together today. Even if nothing comes from it, I needed to know that you actually cared. That I did not imagine everything we had. It was real," James said firmly. "The realest thing in my entire life." They walked off the plane together, moving through the jetway like two people caught between past and future, not quite sure which direction to choose, the choice at arrivals. Los Angeles International Airport buzzed with the controlled chaos of thousands of people rushing toward their destinations. James and Rachel walked side by side through the terminal, their pace slowing as they approached the inevitable fork in their paths. James spotted the signs pointing toward ground transportation and baggage claim. His driver would be waiting. His hotel was booked. His meeting tomorrow morning at 9 required preparation. Everything in his carefully controlled life waited for him to step back into his role. But beside him walked the woman who had never quite left his heart, and he found himself desperately searching for reasons to extend this unexpected reunion just a little longer. "Do you have a ride to your hotel?" James asked, trying to sound casual despite his racing pulse. Rachel adjusted her bag on her shoulder. "I was planning to grab an Uber. My hotel is in Santa Monica, near the beach. Let me drive you." She stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Other travelers flowed around them like water around stones in a river. "James, we agreed I needed space to think." "I know. And I will give you that. But let me at least make sure you get to your hotel safely. We can talk or not talk. Your choice. But after 8 years, please let me do this one small thing. Rachel studied his face, searching for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she nodded slowly. Okay. But just the ride. Nothing more. Just the ride, James agreed, though his heart soared at even this small concession. They made their way to the arrivals level where James's driver, Robert, waited beside a sleek black sedan. If Robert was surprised to see his employer with a beautiful woman, he was professional enough not to show it. Change of plans, Robert. We are dropping my friend at the Oceana Resort in Santa Monica first. Of course, sir. James opened the door for Rachel, a gesture that earned him a slight smile. As they settled into the back seat, the privacy screen already raised, the reality of their situation settled over them like an unexpected blanket. The car ride truth. Traffic moved slowly out of the airport, giving them time in this suspended space between their flight and whatever came next. The sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. For several minutes, neither spoke. James watched Rachel from the corner of his eye as she gazed out the window at the unfamiliar city. Nervous about your interview? He asked finally. Terrified, Rachel admitted. This position would be the culmination of everything I have worked for. Leading a major environmental initiative for the entire West Coast. It is the dream job I did not even know I wanted. You will be brilliant. You always are when you are passionate about something. Rachel turned from the window to look at him. How can you still have faith in me after 8 years apart? Because I know who you are at your core. That does not change just because time passes. You are the kind of person who changes the world, Rachel. You always have been. People do change though, James. We are not the same people we were in college. No, he agreed. But some things stay consistent. Your compassion, your intelligence, your determination to make a difference. Those things are fundamental to who you are. Rachel was quiet for a moment, then said something that surprised him. I looked you up, you know. Over the years. I read articles about quantum solutions, watched interviews you gave. I told myself it was just curiosity, but really I was looking for signs of the man I used to know. What did you find? Success. Confidence. A kind of hardness that was not there before. But also, in the more recent interviews, something else. A weariness maybe. Or a searching quality. Like you were not quite satisfied despite all your achievements. James let out a long breath. You always could read me better than anyone else. Yes, that searching quality, as you call it. I have felt it for years now. Like I climbed the mountain I thought I wanted to climb, only to discover the view from the top was not what I expected. What did you expect? Fulfillment, I suppose. Validation. Proof that all the sacrifices were worth it. James paused, gathering courage. Proof that I made the right choice when I let you walk away. And did you find that proof? No. Just the opposite, actually. Every achievement felt hollow because I had no one who truly mattered to share it with. My mom would congratulate me, my board would praise me, magazines would write glowing profiles. But none of it meant anything because the one person whose opinion I actually valued was not there. Rachel's eyes glistened with emotion. You cannot say things like that, James. Why not? It is the truth. Because it makes this harder. Because I came to LA planning to start a new chapter of my life, and now you are making me question everything. The car merged onto the highway, and the Pacific Ocean appeared in the distance, vast and eternal. Hotel lobby confessions. When they arrived at the Oceana Resort, James made a decision. Robert, please wait here. I will be a few minutes. James, you do not have to walk me in, Rachel protested. I know. I want to. They entered the hotel lobby together, a beautiful space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. The sunset cast golden light across everything, making the moment feel almost magical. Rachel checked in quickly, receiving her room key from a friendly clerk. She turned to James, key card in hand, and neither of them moved toward the elevators. "I should let you go," James said, not meaning a word of it. "You should," Rachel agreed, not moving either. They stood there in the lobby, two people caught between who they used to be and who they might become, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "Can I tell you something?" Rachel asked suddenly. "Something I have never admitted out loud?" "Anything. About 6 months after I left, I came close to calling you. I was in Ghana, middle of nowhere, working on a well installation project. It was brutally hot, I was exhausted, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. That night, lying in my tent, I wanted so badly to hear your voice. To have you tell me I was strong enough to handle it. To remind me why the work mattered. Why did you not call? Pride. Fear. The certainty that you would not answer or that you would have moved on. And maybe because part of me knew that if I heard your voice, all the healing I had done would unravel." James felt his chest tighten with emotion. "I would have answered. No matter what time, no matter where I was. I would have answered. I know that now. But at the time, I could not risk it. Rachel, I have spent 8 years thinking about what I would say if I ever got another chance with you. I have rehearsed speeches in my head, written letters I never sent, imagined conversations that never happened. And now that you are standing here in front of me, I realize that none of those words matter. The only thing that matters is this: I love you. I have loved you since that day at the campus protest. I loved you when you left. I loved you during 8 years of silence. And I will love you whether you give me another chance or not. That is my truth, Rachel. The only truth that matters." A tear rolled down Rachel's cheek, and she did not brush it away this time. "You cannot just say things like that and expect me to make a rational decision tomorrow. I am not trying to pressure you. I am just being honest." "Honest," Rachel repeated, almost laughing. 8 years of silence, and now you decide to be honest in a hotel lobby in a city neither of us calls home. Terrible timing, I know. Story of my life where you are concerned. The moment of decision." Rachel looked toward the elevators, then back at James. He could see the war happening behind her eyes, logic battling emotion, past pain wrestling with present possibility. "My interview is at 10 tomorrow morning," she said carefully. "It is incredibly important to me. I know. I need to be focused. Sharp. At my best. Of course. If I invited you up to my room right now, I would not sleep. We would talk all night, and I would be exhausted tomorrow. I might mess up the opportunity one have worked years to achieve." "You are right," James said, even though every cell in his body wanted to argue. "But if I send you away right now, I might regret it for another 8 years." James waited, barely breathing, letting her work through her thoughts without interference. "So here is what we are going to do," Rachel said finally, her voice stronger now. "You are going to leave. You are going to go to your hotel, prepare for your meeting, and let me do the same. Tomorrow evening, after both of our obligations are fulfilled, you are going to text me. If I respond, we will have dinner. A real conversation, with both of us clear-headed and not emotionally overwhelmed from an unexpected plane encounter. And if you do not respond? Then you will know that I have thought about it carefully and decided that some stories are better left in the past." It was not the answer James wanted, but it was fair. More than fair, considering how badly he had hurt her. "Okay," he agreed. "I can do that." "Can you though? Really? Because I need to know you can respect my boundaries. That if I say no tomorrow, you will accept it with grace." James looked directly into her eyes. "Rachel, I have respected your boundaries for 8 years. If you tell me no tomorrow, I will be heartbroken, but I will accept it. You have my word. She searched his face one more time, then nodded. Okay then. They stood there for another moment, neither quite ready to end this day that had changed everything. Good luck tomorrow, James said softly. With the interview. You are going to be amazing. You too. With your meeting. James took a step back, then another, forcing himself to create physical distance even though it felt like tearing off his own skin. Good night, Rachel. Good night, James. He turned and walked toward the lobby doors, each step requiring more willpower than the last. At the threshold, he paused and looked back. Rachel still stood there, watching him, her expression impossible to read. Then she smiled. A small, genuine smile that gave him just enough hope to make it through the next 24 hours. James walked out into the warm Los Angeles evening, climbed back into the car, and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for 8 years. Everything all right, sir? Robert asked. I honestly do not know, James admitted. But for the first time in a very long time, I feel like maybe it could be. The longest day. The next day crawled by with agonizing slowness. James's meeting went well, though he barely remembered the details afterward. His mind was entirely focused on the evening, on the text message he would send, on whether Rachel would respond. He found himself checking his phone compulsively, even though he knew it was too early. Her interview would not even be over yet. At 6 in the evening, sitting in his hotel room overlooking downtown Los Angeles, James composed and deleted a dozen different text messages. Everything sounded wrong, too casual or too intense, too desperate or too aloof. Finally, he settled on simplicity. How did your interview go? He hit send before he could second-guess himself again, then stared at his phone like it might explode. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Then 5. James set his phone face down on the desk and tried to focus on his laptop. He made it approximately 30 seconds before checking again. Still nothing. Maybe she was still processing the interview. Maybe she was having dinner with her potential new colleagues. Maybe she had decided not to respond at all and was trying to figure out how to let him down gently. Or maybe she just needed time. James forced himself to take a shower, trying to wash away the anxiety. When he emerged 20 minutes later, wrapped in a hotel robe, he grabbed his phone with trembling hands. One new message. His heart stopped as he opened it. It went really well. I think they liked me. Where are you staying? James felt a smile spread across his face so wide it almost hurt. She responded. She asked where he was staying. That meant something. He typed back immediately, downtown Ritz-Carlton. But I can meet you anywhere in the city. Your choice. The response came faster this time. There is a restaurant called Starlight Pier. Right on the Santa Monica Pier. Meet me there at 8. I will be there. James looked at his watch. He had exactly 90 minutes to get ready and drive to Santa Monica. He moved faster than he had in years. Dinner under the stars. The Starlight Pier restaurant sat at the end of the Santa Monica Pier, waves crashing below, fairy lights strung overhead like captured stars. James arrived 15 minutes early, unable to help himself, and secured a table on the outdoor deck. The sun had just set, leaving the sky painted in deep purples and blues. The Pacific stretched endlessly before him, and James felt more nervous than he had before any business presentation in his life. At exactly 8 o'clock, Rachel appeared. She wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes, her hair down around her shoulders the way he remembered from their college days. She looked breathtaking. James stood as she approached, and for a moment they just looked at each other. Hi, Rachel said, a slight smile playing on her lips. Hi yourself. You look beautiful. You clean up pretty well too. They sat down, and a waiter appeared immediately with menus and water. After he left, silence settled over them, but it was different from the tense silence on the plane. This felt anticipatory, full of possibility. "So," Rachel said, "I have been thinking." "That sounds ominous." "Maybe. Or maybe hopeful. I have not decided yet." She took a sip of water, gathering her thoughts. "My interview went extremely well. They offered me the position on the spot." "Rachel, that is incredible. Congratulations." "Thank you. It is everything I have worked for. Leading environmental initiatives across the entire West Coast, managing a team of 50 people, budget in the millions. It is the opportunity of a lifetime." "But?" James heard the hesitation in her voice. "But accepting it means moving to Los Angeles. Leaving Denver, leaving the life I have built, starting completely over in a new city where I know exactly one person." James felt his pulse quicken. "Who is the one person?" Rachel met his eyes directly. "You, obviously. Though I am not sure if that counts as knowing someone when we have not spoken in 8 years. We spoke yesterday. For 6 hours straight." "True. That was quite a download." Rachel smiled, then turned serious again. "James, I need you to understand something. If we are going to try this again, it has to be different. I am not the same girl who accepted being second place to your work. I have my own career now, my own ambitions, my own life. I cannot and will not be an accessory to your success. I would never ask you to be. You did not ask last time either. It just happened gradually. Work dinners that ran late, weekends sacrificed for client meetings, vacations cancelled for emergencies that were not really emergencies. I need to know you have actually changed, not just said the words." James leaned forward, his expression intense. "You are absolutely right. And I cannot prove it to you with words. I can only prove it through actions, through showing up consistently, through making you a priority instead of an afterthought. I understand that I do not deserve your trust. I understand that I have to earn it back. But Rachel, I want to try. I want to be the partner you deserve. What about your company? Quantum Solutions is your baby. Can you really change how you work after all these years?" "I have already started. Over the past 2 years, I have been restructuring, delegating more, building a management team I actually trust. My goal is to transition from CEO to chairman of the board within the next 18 months. I want to be involved in strategy and vision, but not in the day-to-day operations that consumed my life." Rachel looked surprised. "You are stepping down as CEO?" "Not stepping down exactly. Stepping back. I built Quantum Solutions to change how we think about technology and sustainability. That mission is bigger than me. It is time I trusted other people to carry it forward while I actually live my life instead of just working. That is a massive change. It is a necessary change. I am 36 years old, Rachel. I have more money than I will ever need, professional success beyond my wildest dreams, and I am miserable. Do you know what I did on my 35th birthday? I reviewed quarterly reports in my office until 2 in the morning, then went home to an empty apartment and fell asleep on my couch. That is not a life. That is just existing." Rachel reached across the table and placed her hand over his. The touch sent electricity through his entire body. "I want to believe you," she said softly. "I want to believe that we could make this work. But I am scared, James. I am terrified of getting hurt again. I am scared too. Scared that I will mess this up, scared that I do not deserve this second chance, scared that you will realize I am still that same workaholic who failed you before. Are you though? Are you still that person?" James thought carefully before answering. "Honestly? I still have those tendencies. I still get absorbed in work, still want to solve every problem myself, still struggle with delegation. But now I am aware of it. Now I catch myself and make different choices. I see a therapist every week. I schedule time for my life outside of work and actually keep those commitments. I am not perfect, Rachel, but I am trying to be better. Their food arrived, temporarily interrupting the intensity of their conversation. They ate slowly, talking about lighter things. Rachel told him funny stories from her interview. James shared a ridiculous anecdote about his board meeting going off the rails when two investors started arguing about baseball. As they laughed together, James felt something click into place. This was what he had been missing. Not just romance or physical connection, but genuine companionship with someone who understood him, challenged him, and made him want to be better. The walk on the pier. After dinner, they walked along the Santa Monica Pier, the ocean dark and vast beside them. The pier bustled with people, street performers, the bright lights of arcade games, but James barely noticed any of it. His entire focus was on the woman beside him. "Can I ask you something?" Rachel said as they paused near the end of the pier. "Anything. What do you actually want from this? From us potentially trying again?" James turned to face her fully, the ocean breeze ruffling his hair. "I want everything. I want morning coffee together and late-night conversations. I want to hear about your day and tell you about mine. I want to celebrate your successes and support you through challenges. I want to travel together, build a life together, maybe eventually have a family together if that is something you still want. I want the partnership we should have had 8 years ago, but this time with both of us mature enough to actually make it work." Rachel's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "That is a lot to want. I know. And I know we cannot have it all at once. We have to rebuild trust, relearn each other, figure out if we actually work together now or if we are just nostalgic for who we used to be. But Rachel, I want the chance to try." "I got the job," Rachel said suddenly. "And I have already decided to take it. Not because of you, but because it is the right move for my career. Los Angeles is where I need to be right now." "That is wonderful. You should take it. Which means I will be living here." "And you live where?" "Still in Denver?" "Actually, I have been looking at opening a West Coast office for quantum solutions. Silicon Valley, probably, but Los Angeles is also an option. I could split my time, or potentially relocate entirely." Rachel gave him a sharp look. "James Beckham, you are not moving across the country for me. I will not be responsible for that. I am not moving for you. I am moving for me. The company needs a stronger West Coast presence regardless. But I will admit that knowing you might be here makes the decision easier." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the waves crash against the pier pilings below them. "So what happens now?" Rachel asked. "Do we jump back in? Take it slow? What does this look like?" "I think we take it slow. Real dates, honest conversations, building something solid instead of rushing. I will be in Los Angeles regularly for the next few months setting up the office. We can see each other, get to know who we are now instead of who we were. No pressure, no expectations, just seeing where it goes." "Exactly." Rachel smiled, a genuine warm smile that made James's heart race. "I think I can do that." Yeah. "But James, if you hurt me again, there will not be a third chance. I need you to understand that. I am willing to try, but I am not willing to be destroyed again." "I understand. And I promise I will do everything in my power to be worthy of this chance." Rachel stepped closer, and James held his breath, not daring to hope. "I have one more condition," she said, her voice soft. "Name it." "Kiss me. Right now. So I know this is real and not just some beautiful dream I am going to wake up from." James did not need to be asked twice. He cupped her face gently in his hands, his thumbs brushing against her cheeks, and kissed her with 8 years of longing, regret, hope, and love poured into one perfect moment. Rachel melted into him, her arms wrapping around his neck, and for those few seconds, nothing else existed. Not the past, not their mistakes, not the uncertainty of the future. Just two people who had found their way back to each other against impossible odds. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Rachel laughed softly. Okay. That felt real. Very real, James agreed, his forehead resting against hers. They stood there on the pier, holding each other, as the Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly before them and the stars began to appear overhead. I start the new job in 3 weeks, Rachel said. That gives me time to wrap things up in Denver and move here. And I will be here in 2 weeks to scout office locations. Maybe I can help you apartment hunt? Maybe. If you promise not to try to buy me something ridiculously expensive. I make no such promise. Rachel laughed and swatted his arm playfully. I am serious. I am paying my own way. Equal partners, remember? Equal partners, James agreed. In everything. They walked back along the pier slowly, neither wanting the evening to end. At the entrance, where they would have to part ways, they stopped.